Hey guys, it's Matt. If you're at work, you don't need to see this. I might show a few other images. I might not. I might stick with this one. I'll talk you through it. This is an exercise in thinking big. For those that don't know what image I'm showing here, the morning of the 7-Eleven job application, I will bring everybody up to speed that doesn't know exactly what they're looking at. This 10 to 15 minutes leading up to the big event and what was on television the morning of 2001 is incredible to me. The predictive nature of what would be coming, the quote allusions of what would be coming. No, not all planted and called in. There's no possible way it could have worked like that. And for those that I fight with regarding that think the little every little group is running around planning everything out, and if they're still here, they're big. They're big people. And I'm willing to change my position too because I give you guys a lot of crap. And if you're still here and you're big enough to take it without the ability to fight back, like Charlie will email me or whatever, but you don't have the same platform and voice. You're a big person to still be here because I do get on you guys quite a bit. And if I'm wrong, I'll change my opinion over time. I'm not locked in to anything. In this crazy, insane, bizarro world, to be locked into anything is insane. That would be the most insane thing, to think anybody has it all figured out. And it's this reality, the more we learn, the more we understand we don't know much of anything. So, guys, when I say an exercise in thinking big, somebody is usually throwing a rubber duck and screaming. That just means, Matt, that just means you don't know what the heck you're talking about. You cover it up with an exercise in thinking big. Gives you the right to be wrong. Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, when we do exercises in thinking big, I don't think I'm going to be right more than one out of three, 4, or 5 times. But if they're exercises in thinking that big, even if we're right 1 out of 5 times, it becomes like a breakthrough in understanding how the reality works. If you want to think big enough, if you don't want to do exercises in thinking big, I don't. There's an old man in a chair somewhere. You go over there right now, he'll probably tell you right now how many people are going to be dead by the end of next week. I mean, he'll tell you all about that. That's the games the reality wants you to play. They want you all focused in on that bullshit. I don't think, well, with the possibility that we are actually propagating, and from a retrocausality perspective, real people that are focusing in on the magenta agenda actually are propagating it back through time in a retrocausal spatial way, which is, I know that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but in a way maybe we are helping propagate it or we are helping to cause it. That is part of what we're going to talk about here today. And it's going to be some way out shit. So let's just start, when it's going to be way out shit, let's just start with the absolute basics. The image you're looking at here, I'll talk you through it if you can't see it. Okay, back to the image and the specifics of what you're looking at. There is still clips that I have on my old Mac, the 15 minutes or the 20 minutes of what was on television before the big event in 2001, right before the job application was signed. Now, maybe it's the way the person organized the clips that I captured many years ago, but almost every single segment of what was on TV, the person seems to flip around between 3 or maybe 4 channels. Almost every single segment on what was on television right before the big event had a predictive element to what was coming to me. It's absolutely incredible. I'll talk about the specifics of what you're looking at here. 8:34, it says ABC. I don't know if this is part of their local show or I don't recognize him as a host of Good Morning America, but it's probably Good Morning America. 8:34. To me, if I remember correctly, it was 8:47 for the first Phantom Menace came into North. Whether PP or no PP, there was a big event that happened, so it really doesn't matter. 8:47. This is 8:34. And he's pulling people from the audience and from the staff saying, it's pretty incredible, Ken, how many people here are wearing purple. And there's a lot more that he pulls a cameraman in, and there's more people wearing purple in his general vicinity than just shows here. You just see a few people, and I do, of course, the woman on the far left, the magenta. We have to talk about that and do some big thinking there as to what And I'm going to allude to the fact that potentially her magenta shirt didn't exist when this happened or when I first looked at this. I hear you how weird that is, okay? But we're just going to keep some big thinking things on the table. That just scrambles your brain, then this ain't for you. To go back, find the old man in the chair. Okay, I'm not saying I'm pushing on my chips, saying that this is some sort of change in reality, and the magenta wasn't there. I'm just saying we're going to discuss the possibility that it wasn't. All right, I wouldn't have specifically noticed it because I wasn't looking the last 5 times I covered this over the last 12 years. I wasn't looking for magenta the way I'm looking for it now. And if anybody's screaming at me saying, well, Matt, all this magenta you're seeing, you've now programmed yourself every single time you see it to record it. Therefore, the incidence of it seems far higher than it actually is. I'm aware of that, and I'm taking that into account. No, the incidence of magenta, whether I'm looking for it or not, is through the roof. No doubt about it. I'm taking into account and discounting, if that's the right dumb word, discounting off the fact that I'm looking for it. It's still every time I turn around, I see magenta. There's something going on. I don't think I have to prove that to you guys. Most of us see it. But let's forget the magenta for now, and just talk about this 8:34, 8:47 starts the time and the moment where the world would change forever. And he's going, look at all these people that wore purple. Now, the people I fight with are going to think this guy is in on it. And I think that's ridiculous. I think some things that were shown on TV 10 to 15 minutes out before the big event were planned. Just because the Tom Brokaw special that was advertised 15 minutes before the big event, that at 6, here's what's going to be coming tonight with NBC News with Tom Brokaw at 6, where it would be at 6:30. The 911 emergency call center, Flava Flav had a problem with it 20 years ago, and it's not performing today. The 911 Joke in Yorktown call center. So Tom Brokaw, they're advertising what he will be looking at on the world news 20 minutes before the event, the 911 emergency call center, and how many calls it receives and some of the problems with it. Of course, I agree with you guys about to throw rubber duckies. That's planned. Of course, there's 1,000 things that were planned out. Whether there's a mystical nature to it, an occult nature to what went down, technology we don't understand, a magic, or they brought a demon in from the end of legend. There's still things that have to be planned. I agree. The Tom Brokaw, that the 911 emergency Flava Flav call center is part of the plan. Just because that's part of the plan, you can't say, well, Matt, then everything on television was part of the plan. No, I don't agree with that. When this guys, I'm not, why he would highlight the purple before, I'm not going to get into that, 15 minutes before the big event. Just because the Tom Brokaw special running later is part of the plan and the presentation. I don't believe this nobody, he got a call. And I'm not going to do this long because you know my position on this. I'm not going to get in the weeds and we're going to start this fight because there's other things to talk about in this presentation. But let's just go through this one. Let's just say this guy is Harry Smith. I don't know who this guy is. Harry? This is Men in Black, Department Area 51 of Department 6 Langley. I never heard of you, but we have a lot of juice and a lot of clout, and you might have, here's a code number, so you take us seriously. We want you to talk about a certain thing at 8:34 tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning. And anybody wearing purple, even people on the street, we want you to pull them in. Or did some of the people listening to this actually believe that all these nobodies in the audience got calls from the Men in Black too? Do you think they got calls like that woman? Matt, that woman there, that ain't nothing but a Rothschild. You think all the people in the audience got calls from the secret societies too? I didn't go that far. No, come on. This guy, well, Matt, if he wasn't in on it and didn't get a call from the Men in Black, why is he pulling people out of the audience? And there's a lot more people that were wearing purple than what's shown here. There's just a still shot. He pulls people in and then they leave. There was more people than just what's shown here. And of course, as I'm watching this, or every time I've ever looked at this, I wasn't paying attention to the magenta on the left. Because we know there's a download at work in this reality. We know people get tuned to the frequency. Mr. Keating talked about passing it along. When you yawn, somebody else might yawn. There's something going. No, this guy, this little nobody, didn't get a call. He's like, what? Why do you want me? He would be. Why do you want me to pull people out of the audience wearing purple at between 8:30, 8 o'clock, and 8:30 and 8:34 tomorrow morning on the show? Who are you again, Langley? It wouldn't happen. Okay, so stop it. Okay, let's just. Some is planned, some, and then the things that are planned, it's like they create a momentum or a butterfly. That's an Obama. A butterfly effect or a wave. Matt, every time you stutter now, don't say it's an Obama every time. Okay, I'll stop it. I'll stop it. I'll say it's a Michael. She did. She never stuttered. Boy, she was tough. I would not want to get in the ring with her. So anyway, sorry. So guys, part of it's planned, and then people follow along. How that happens in this reality is wondrous and fascinating. But to me, that's how it works. Lou in Back to School was nice, and he was tough. I'm nice. I put one kid through college. I put another kid through a wall. A lot of the things, they know it's coming. It's planned out. And then the download starts, and people just do what the not ilk wants, and the frequency starts, and they get on the frequency. All of these news segments and what was on television, the 15 minutes leading up to the big event, no, couldn't possibly have all been planned. I mean, I know people still, and I'll get off the topic. I don't want to, Matt, don't jump into the weeds on this again. I know. 20 seconds. There's a segment where they say the Miss America contestants in preparation for or prejudging for Miss America were asked questions about. One was about Pearl Harbor, which was at PNAC, the Project for a New American Century, the need of a new Pearl Harbor. That was a Miss America question. That was a news story just before this. Dick Cheney. A percentage of the Miss America contestants didn't know that Dick Cheney was the Vice President of the United States, who was the integral person regarding the whole event. So you think the Miss America questions, the Men in Black called them in, and then they just happened to make sure it was run on the news? Okay, Matt, we got it. Most people here don't. Matt, if you're going to turn this entire channel into a fight between a little group of people that think the secret societies run everything, then you're going to lose people, because most people listening to this kind of feel more like you do. Okay, I'll be aware not to get in the weeds on that too much going forward. But it is just a video presentation on what part potentially was planned and what just is passed along, or the frequency of the download. That's fascinating in and of itself, and I need to move on to the things I wanted to discuss. But remember another segment, Bryant Gumbel, right before they went to break, right before it happened. Bryant Gumbel, it's part of a cooking segment. He has a chef on preparing fish or whatever, and it's almost like haphazardly done. They rush to break, and when they come back from break, the world then has changed. The event has happened, or the start of the event. And he, like, quickly as they go to break, he picks up a wine glass, and he's like he's drinking the wine. Symbol, Matt, that is absolute blood symbolism. See that? Yeah, absolutely. With somebody like Bryant Gumbel, that could be. But just because that is in the Tom Brokaw doesn't mean all of the other, how many other things, 20, 25, 30 things that were presented on the news. Anyway, so that's that. So let's move on to the next topic. The color magenta and how it potentially relates to what is going on with the fundamental metaphysical nature of reality itself, right? When something this big, even for my own benefit, I need to start with the basics. The basics are, quote, we, the people investigating this, hardcore, of which Steffers at peaceofmindful.com, the blogger, is investigating this 100 times more than anyone else. We don't have this figured out. But this maybe will help Steffers if she's listening to this, or all the pieces of information, 1,000 pieces she's trying to put together. It needs to be put together in a certain framework, and in a certain framework that makes sense. The only way to get to the bottom of this is to start with the absolute basics. Now, for those that aren't interested in a Magenta discussion, this might interest you. Ultimately, where I'm going to go with this, I'm going to take this because I believe this is happening at this point, or I don't believe it's happening, but I believe it needs to be left on the table, okay, as a possibility as to what's happening. I don't know. We don't know what's happening yet. But not only are we noticing the magenta all over the place now, we're noticing it in elements of the past, like what you're looking at here. So, Matt, be plain. Um, Again, this is crazy shit, okay? And I'm not going to put all my chips here. Stop apologizing, Matt. Just say it. The woman wearing the magenta here, when we saw this the first time, when you watched this on television the morning of, if you watched this live, when I covered this 5 times over the last 10 years, she might not have been wearing a magenta shirt, okay? There is potentially a retrocausal element to it. I don't know if I'm going to show you clips. Jeff uncovered an incredible scene at the foot of the WTC, a scene from the movie The Wiz. Thank you, Jeff. And for anybody under age 40 this time, we'll go to even 45. Say, what the hell is The Wiz? Cheese Whiz? No, The Wiz it's some sort of musical remake of The Wizard of Oz. All black cast or mostly black cast. Diana Ross, Dorothy, Michael Jackson, I believe Nipsey Russell was the Matt, you old enough to remember this? Yeah. Not my favorite tunes, but it was different. Not for me. But Nipsey Russell was the Tin Man. I forget who the lion was. But what is it in Roman numerals? 88 finest temporis would be like mirror. Yeah, the as above, so the mirror. Yeah, of course. It's when you have scenes like this. Yeah, that mirror in the cover art or the movie poster is on purpose. So you've got this strange scene, and I've seen bits and pieces of the movie, but as I flip by channels over many years, but I really don't know the movie. But Jeff sent this to me. This huge dance scene at the bottom of North and South. That's them right there. A huge dance scene filmed at night. The whole area blocked off. Pyramids all over the place. And the first segment is you got to be green. Everybody's in the emerald green. Everybody, and I don't know, there's some song sung. It's you got to be green. It's cool to be green. This is what's in, and all this. They've made that ball, that creepy ball in the middle between North and South, called the sphere. They've actually they glued a Z to that, and they made it the O in Oz. So then there's an announcement from the Great Oz, which is coming from the WTC. The Great Oz there's a conjoined section of the 2 into 1 of the WTC says, no, green is out. Green is out. You wouldn't be caught dead in green because now the new color is red. It's a strange dance scene, folks. And then all the pyramids turn red. The dancing starts. Everybody's in red. And then eventually Oz announced that, no, now red's out. Gold. Everything switches to gold. And what Steffers found was, Jeff sent it to me, I sent it to Steffers. Of course, she broke it down to a much finer level of detail. And she's saying, Matt, this is not, they have to make a movie. They have to make the movie seem normal and legitimate, even if they're pushing symbolism throughout the movie. In a dance scene filmed at the bottom of North and South with all sorts of pyramids, yeah, that's not a coincidence. We know that. And she's saying they're saying it's a red presentation because they're making a movie. What are they going to do? Say, we just switched the color to magenta? That would be a little strange. But it's red is kind of like what the movie has to show people. It's a magenta presentation because it comes from the lights up on Oz's tower. I'll show it to you. And just for a split second, it flashes magenta, which comes down and filters down as red. Just because it just would be too strange in the movie. It's first and foremost, it's a movie that millions of people have to accept as normal. Okay, green is out, and that was cool yesterday, and now what's cool is red. What are they going to say? What's cool today is a magenta. So the red is just a cover, and I'll show you the actual moment where it shows its true nature and flashes the magenta, caught by Steffers. Okay, these are the Diana Ross, Dorothy, these are the characters from The Wiz. Anybody, again, under 40 is not going to have a clue about this. And anybody saying, that's Michael Jackson in the middle as the scarecrow? Oh, my goodness. He got his humiliation ritual out of the way soon. 1978, well, He wishes he did. There would be a lot more humiliation coming for him with the Macaulay Culkin and the Never Neverland Ranch and all that shenanigans and stuff. But what did he do? You think the first? This is before he bleached his skin and all that. He was relatively normal when he did this in '78. What do you think he did when they handed him the costume? He held it up in front of the mirror and went, "What? You want me to put this on?" I guess some would say it's actually a little bit cooler than the Thriller jacket that everybody went out and bought. Everybody went out in the 80s and bought that damn Thriller jacket for $400. Thought it was cool for like 5 minutes. And then after that, they looked at the Thriller jacket and went, "What the hell did I do? Am I going to actually wear this to high school? I'll be beaten to a pulp." Sorry. So this is it's a musical, guys. They just turned, well, The Wizard of Oz originally is a musical, Matt. Okay, whatever. Why am I even showing you guys this? Anyway, just wanted you to familiarize yourself with The Wiz. But here's the deal. My opponents, my adversaries, believe that the secret societies are running around. They would say, Matt, you guys are onto something with the magenta. I've been noticing too. It is everywhere now. And then when we started talking about the emerald green, it was everywhere. And now, we need to get to the bottom as to what is really being said in the magenta presentation. That's the most important. We have some ideas. I'll go on to that as soon as I can. Again, it's just a split second during the green dance scene. Announcement from the Great Oz. The Great Oz is a segment that joins 1 and 2 towers. I mean, there's your another 2 into 1. Matt, they're relentless with the same symbolism over. Yeah, they are for some reason. How they manipulate reality with all of it, I don't know. Creepy ways. They have it joined like a 2 into 1. He says, no, announcement from Oz. Green is dead. The new color is red. And there's no doubt, you pause it right here. I guess if you want to go to YouTube, you look up The Wiz 1978, The Color Is. The title, YouTube search box, The Wiz 1978, The Color Is. At exactly 2 minutes and 44 seconds, it flashes just for a quarter of a second. It's clearly magenta. When the flash ends, the scene is in red. Every pyramid is red. Every dancer is dressed in red. Of course, that is the way you would need to present the movie. And of course, I'm keeping this on the table. I'm not sure where this is going to go in this presentation, but I am keeping on the table, just like the t-shirt was magenta, that if you watch this or you are able to freeze your Betamax or your VHS or whatever you watched in the 80s, you're able to freeze this, it might have been red. It's not that hard for me to keep retrocausality on the table because I'm Mandela affected. And if you're Mandela affected, that is how it works. There is a change, something you notice. There is no date of change. You might have noticed it yesterday. That doesn't mean it's the date of change. When you research its history, going back to its origin, or going back 100 years or 500 years, it's always been that way. So there is, from a reality itself perspective, there is no date of change. All I'm saying is when I noticed the magenta in the past, like the woman's shirt in the picture I showed you coming in where he was actually highlighting everybody that is wearing purple, I'm keeping on the table it's a retrocausality, but not as much in this example. Right? In an example where you have a major scene filmed at the bottom of the towers, the bottom, right there where they did all the concerts, the main courtyard, around the sphere, I mean, all the pyramids, all the symbolism, of course, with all that being not nilk presentation, and in some way the need to switch over from the green and the emerald green, the next phase is red, and they certainly it makes sense. You can't. The next phase, at least as the movie presents it, is now it's cool to be in magenta. It just doesn't work for the movie. So Steffers would say that, this whole dance scene in red, that it's not cool anymore to be green, it's cool to be red. Well, this is magenta because of the flash. It just can't be part of the movie because nobody would accept it, that now it's cool, and then eventually it moves on to gold. So this, I would say, is not a retrocausality. I'm keeping on the table it potentially could be, but there's too much planned in this scene, of course, in the WTC courtyard. So, yeah, I have to assume, because of all the other creepy elements in this scene, that even back as far as 1978, they have this transition planned. Matt, what does that mean, a magenta transition? Okay, we need to talk about it. I think the best place to start is right here. This quote we heard about in our pursuit of truth 10 years ago or more. This is what you study when you go through first, second, and third grade truth. This supposed quote that's been floating around the truth community from CIA Director 1981 William Casey, CIA Director. Quote, "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." Now, guys, look, this is one of those things I went through kindergarten and first grade and second grade truth, and we went back in 2010. This was floating around. Oh, we caught them. Oh, now we really know what they're up to. Guys, give me a break. The only way this gets out, assuming it's even real, and you can research it either way. My Tony friend, he would research it and say, "Oh, I found so much debunking on that. You truthers made that up." Either way, to my opinion, it's carried into our truth community by the not nilk on purpose. Either way, we fell for it. I mean, let's just do 4 minutes or less. Do not want to spend a lot of time on this. Does anybody really think if this could be real? If it's real, it's a mistake on purpose. If it's real, it's not nilk implanted into our truth community. Does anybody really think that the CIA director was caught saying to anybody that he shouldn't be talking to, or caught on a mic, or said this to somebody who then said, "Guess what William Casey said?" Do you really think in public, in anything that remotely could be considered public, he would say, "Oh, we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false"? I'm just guessing. You don't get to be the director of the CIA by being stupid. So whether this happened or not, it was something that was propagated artificially. Is it a Humpty Dumpty, Matt? Kind of. Propagated artificially inside the truth community. When something is planted inside the truth community by the not nilk, it's done for a variety of different reasons. It could simply be to throw us off, not in this case, in other cases, get us to take the wrong set of breadcrumbs, or potentially in this case, it is a truth, but it can't be taken directly or literally. You have to decode it or decipher it. And this is what's related to the Magenta presentation. I mean, a first grade truther would read this if they believe it's real, and the CIA is just out to get the American public to literally believe everything the American public comes across as false. Then their job will be done. This could be completely and very much true, but not taken literally. You have to, what is potentially being said here, if this is truth that was introduced to us on purpose by the not nilk system, and what would be the roundabout way or reading between the lines? How do I interpret this related to the Magenta presentation? I believe Steffers found this, if I remember correctly, on a Microsoft website where there's some sort of spectrum. It's a graphic, if you're not being able to see this, a graphic, a very simple graphic along a sliding scale between, on the left, the physical world and the digital world, and some sort of a sliding scale that's labeled mixed reality spectrum, and some sort of color wheel that looks a little bit like the spiked, but not quite. And the middle of the color, it's a cyan, it's a magenta in the middle. There's not a lot of other colors that can be picked out. It's just very strange if this came from a Microsoft website. Let's just use it for our purposes here. To me, there's no way of easily saying this, so I got to just say it. If this doesn't come out right, it'll be the craziest thing of all time, and many of you will say, I can't believe I wasted years at this channel. This guy's nuts. So I'm just going to say it. And this relates to the Magenta presentation. Okay, Matt, just say it. To me, they're trying to turn what was once considered a real world into a fake world. What does that mean? I'm not sure yet. I've sensed this for many, many years, that they're trying to turn what was once a real world into a fake world, or a world of zeros and ones, or a digital world, or a matrix. I don't know exactly what that means just yet, but I've thought about it for a long time. I've even hinted at it. I've said things like, I mean, the moon landing to us now is ridiculous. Okay, there's so many reasons why it can be seen that it's impossible. Nobody could have gone. But I've always thrown out, just as a fun exercise in thinking big, maybe we were part of a reality once where, quote, they went. See, it looks absurd to us now. It is absurd to us now. And I don't, it's a bad example. Okay. I don't think they ever went, but there was things that appear ridiculous to us now. I said this 4, 5, 6 years ago. I said, maybe this really happened. And in today's reality, it didn't happen because somehow they're moving reality incrementally down a sliding scale, very similar to the graphic I'm showing you here. Does that make any sense? No, what I'm saying is so out there and so strange, bordering on crazy to many people or anybody stumbling upon this looking for cat videos. I've got to double back several times, guys, even if you're understanding what I'm saying, or you're a little bit, we've been doing this long enough where you understand what I'm saying a little bit easier than I think. Doubling back. So we know nobody believes a CIA director is going to just leak this or say this or make a mistake like this. It's all on purpose. Okay? We know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. Well, are we dumb enough to take that literally? Or what is really being said by this being implanted into our community? When everything the American public believes is false, is that possible just by fake news and changing things? This says literally, but you have to read between the lines. This literally says when everything the American public believes is false. Could that happen in any normal means or mechanism? Just going to run around and the men in black will come in the middle of the night, or little blue people will come into libraries and swap out pages. And no, the only way that can happen literally, or anything close to that can happen, is if reality itself transforms. To have any idea, and we still don't know, but to have any idea to prep for what this Magenta presentation is all about, we have to have a little bit of understanding how reality works and how reality does business. And if we're right about any of this, or it turns out that this seems in someday these crazy theories are accepted in terms of what, quote, they or the not Nilk or the screen or the minions are trying to do to reality itself, it is so far beyond any sci-fi novel. It literally, to anybody that hasn't run in our circles for 10 years, it would be insane. So, okay, Matt, enough apologizing there. You remember this graphic. This is just a different version of the concentric rings presentation I made. I'll return to the other graphic at some point. This is a good graphic too. And I don't worry about what every little thing says. I think I spent an hour and a half on this graphic last time. This is just a reminder so we can prepare to have an understanding as to what's going on with this magenta. Okay? In the middle, 2, 3, 4 minutes here, we have a heart-based reality. That this is us in the middle, real people in the middle. The ego and the mind tries to get in and invade it. And around us, or what is around you, is a heart-based reality bubble that's real. Everything inside it is real, and generally the not Nilk can't touch it at this point. Your cat sits on your lap, your daughter or son come up to say hi to you, your wife or spouse says goodbye to work, they come into your reality bubble, you come into theirs. This is the only thing basically that's left, that's ours, that's completely real, and that they can't taint it. They operate at the periphery, at the reality bubbles going outward, which at the very outward is the screen. And through its minions, it wants you to extend a hand, the hand at, say, 11 o'clock there. Extend a hand, and it wants to meet you in the middle, the screen, the fake reality on the outer fringes. As you go out from heart center, the reality here gets more and more fake. It starts to break down. So relating back to this William Casey quote, whether real or not, the only way we can get the American public to believe everything is false or everything is fake is if we can get the entire American public to abandon themselves, abandon their heart-based reality and the parts of them or the spiritual side that is real, that this creep system cannot get to, that needs to be abandoned in favor of the screen. Okay, what exactly does that mean, Matt? I don't know. But the magenta is either a incremental step to do it, potentially assists getting real people to abandon themselves. It's not that much dissimilar to the old soul token concept of giving yourself away in favor of the zeros and ones and in favor of joining with the screen and letting the screen and its slimy tentacles into your heart-based reality bubble. The magenta also, I don't know if Steffers has considered this. The magenta, well, I was going to say it could be a side effect, but I don't know. It still could be a side effect, even though you have rock bands going out of their way to present the magenta. Even though you have, what is that horrible new show, Paper Girls or something, Paper Delivery Girls. It's just the first 20 minutes was horrible. But when the time travel started, the magenta, the sky was 100% magenta. It could, or it could be both. It's not a side effect when, right, Paper Girls, the Netflix or Amazon shows going out of its way to make that presentation. But when it just kind of shows up, it could also be. Zara's climbing all over me. I apologize. Zara like gets real interested when I start recording. It could also be of course planted and used the magenta, and it could be a side effect as well. And it could even show up, as we talked about here, to keep on the table, in a retro causality sense. It could show up in the past based on what they're doing and using the magenta now. Oh, and as I said before, or potentially alluded to, if it is showing up in a retrocausal sense, it's showing up in the past where, as we lived through that past, we didn't experience it. It would seem to us now, of course, we wouldn't always notice the change. I think the whole world is a series of Mandela effects all the time, most of which we don't notice. Only a few we notice. But if it is happening in a retrocausal sense, then right now I believe we're probably most likely contributing to it in some way. And all the real people, focusing again on the color magenta, real powerful beings, we are some way at this point assisting it. Doesn't mean we should just run and put our head in the sand and it just every time you see the color, just look the other way and think of white doves. No, we need to get sometimes we need to get close to it. We need to smell its gross breath and its Bigfoot BO and its dragon breath. Then once we understand it, if we did help allow it to gain ground, and these creeps have used the truth community more than any other community to initiate or to devise whatever they're trying to do. We've been used more than any other group. We need to understand it, and this time we're going to nullify it or find our best strategy. We're not just going to study it forever. It would love if we would just study the magenta, and Matt's going to talk about the magenta and keep propagating it. We're going to study it as long as we need to, and whether right or wrong, then we're going to find a strategy to nullify it, take energy away from it, at least as far from ourselves perspective, if not others. I'm actually getting emails from Steffers, who I guess in a way she doesn't even know I'm making a video right now, helping me construct the video. Blackpink concert. Of course, the whole presentation is all magenta. I'd never heard of this band. Is that what they're calling magenta? It seems like that would be a fitting name for the color Blackpink. It is like pink with a black running through it, but I've never heard of them. Anyway, of course, it's all magenta. But once again, let's return to the absolute basics. This is so strange and so complicated. If our foundation breaks down, we're done. All right? And I will look to your comments. All right. 1. This is a very basic or major part that hasn't even been presented yet. But no matter whether I don't even understand it myself in terms of if I had to give a lecture on it at a podium, but in some way they are either using the magenta color to affect reality itself, change reality itself, or what they call the human beings' ability to navigate reality or to be in the reality. They're using this color, right? Now, the only way a color can be used to actually fundamentally in some way change reality is if the reality itself is basically a matrix or an illusion of some kind. So, number one, if you don't go as far down the sliding scale as I do, that this is basically a dream, a Maya, an illusion, a matrix, it is 98% fluid and 2% solid. It's not living in pods like Neo in the Matrix, but you know the way I think about this, the endless synchronicities. This isn't very real or not real at all. If you don't buy that, then there's no way they're going to be able to use a color to change reality, right? So in other words, there's a lot of different ways you can jump off the ship as to where I'm trying to take the ship. If you think the world it's you're all the way we talked about that left side of the sliding scale, everything is very real. Nothing's fluid. A rock really hurts because it's heavy. It's not because of a perception, and you believe the senses are very accurate in the information they take in. Well, you're not ever going to believe a color can change reality in any way or is a byproduct of reality itself changing. So I'm where the reality isn't very real. I see the magenta being used. I see the emerald green presentation, which we've talked about many times over the last 3 or 4 years. And this is being done by the creeps. So it even, to me, more reinforces that this is complete dream, reality, illusion, matrix, etc. Because if any part of it were real, the creeps couldn't come in and by the presentation of a color make a change to reality. The only way to argue that would be to someone could say, well, the reality is real. The color is making a change in you, the person that's taking in the sensory information or the reality. They're not. I guess that either one could be valid. Maybe they're not using the magenta or the emerald green in the past to change. And remember, from the Wiz, the green was the shit. But then Oz said, no, it's time to go red. And just like that, which was magenta, they switched over. And it seems to be happening now. Does it change in some way, affect reality itself, or it affects the perceptions of real people trying to navigate the reality? In the end of the day, or at the end of the day, I don't think it matters whether we get any of this right, really, as long as we generally are correct in what's happening, that the presentation of the magenta is real. It's not something we're imagining, that the amount of instances of it isn't up through the roof just simply because we're noticing it. I think we're factoring that in. I think to people that are paying attention to this, they'll say, they would if I could meet y'all in the park, we would talk. You'd say, I just can't believe the amount of magenta I've been seeing in the last month or so, and that's with Steffers, with me, with everybody I've been emailing. And if I said to them, do you think that's just because via Steffers' blogs and my stuff that I just put in your head all the, to watch out for the magenta, so now you notice it, where in the past, I think everybody would say, I'm taking that into account. It's just over the top. The amount, I mean, just look at ridiculous examples like Bono in the Ukraine subway. Bono and the Edge singing his songs in the Ukraine subway a month or two ago. Why, of all the lighting, why is it the whole subway bathed in a very dark purplish magenta? Why? There's no reason for that. There's the Tears for Fears, been long time. It again, just like the Wiz, switches from an emerald green right to a magenta every time in concert they play a long time. So it's not just noticing it more. Okay, I'm not going to, I guess, apologize for that again. Many of us just see this as all over the place now. And doesn't that prove the nature of reality itself? Why would they, if everything's real and a rock is hard when it drops in your foot and there's no Maya going on here, no dream, and the world's very real, a lot of the truth community still believes that. This is more, well, I'm not going to say it. Um, then what would it change? What would a color presentation, what would be the point? Well, Matt, what's a color? What's the point of a change of a color presentation in a matrix world? We don't know. I don't know. I don't. I guess if I would have been in the Eyes Wide Shut party, I might have listened around the different conversations to see if anybody was talking about it. But I wasn't. I was trying to score Nicole Kidman. I wasn't. I wasn't paying attention to the conversations. So I don't know. But we are noticing this now, and we at least we're noticing that their tactics are. We are at least in opening our minds up to possibilities and tactics that we would have never considered in 2010, 12, 14. Back then, truth was just bang events and school issues and what Illuminati control center does Dick Cheney report to? It was so first and second grade. At least now we're really getting an idea as to how these creeps operate. Okay, let me summarize this the best I can. We have a long way to go. If a certain part or two or three or four of this presentation you thought was complete horseshit, I understand this is weird, whacked out stuff. I'm not dug in on any of my positions. I'm not intransigent. I'm willing to open up and change. This is a starting point. So, gets back to that same quote by Casey, which he's not dumb. No CIA director came out and on a hot mic or whoever overheard him say, "Oh, we're not done until everything the public believes is fake." Well, who would believe that? It's inserted, of course, it is, into our truth community so we can propagate it. But there's truth, in my opinion, there's truth in it. To me, it's that graphic, back to that Microsoft graphic. A real world over here, sliding scale down to a fake world. Very similar to what we've been talking about. So let me just present this whacked out example. If anybody's at work or whatever, looking at the just images, the Kennedy to Lincoln synchronicities, of which now in the book I think I'm almost up to 50. Both had a VP named Johnson, and whatever. It just goes on and on and on. If you believe that parts of this presentation may be right, or we may be onto something in terms of how the magenta is being used, then you probably would be open to notions that I've always been open to. Like the Kennedy to Lincoln synchronicities is something that's happening to reality in a retrocausality fashion, if you will. So if you were really alive back, don't go into the weeds, don't sidetrack. It's all puppets. It's all, I'm not, this isn't my first rodeo. Okay. I know what a president is and all. I don't want to let's not get in the weeds and sidetrack. I have to quote some accepted history. That doesn't mean I believe the accepted history. Just give me a pass on that, of course. So if I was could time travel and was riding around, or I was alive back then with Lincoln, and I would find that he didn't have a security manager that was riding along with him by the name of John Kennedy. But history now, and multiple history seems to match up, that his security manager for his trip, of which he went through took visits to here and there and ended up at the Ford, jumps back to Ford Theater, that it was John Kennedy. So if it's a retrocausality and reality operates in a retrocausal fashion far more than we think, and I think it does. I think we live inside a gigantic Mandela effect. I think this happens all the time. I think the creeps understand it, and they massage it, manipulate it the best they can, and sometimes there's weird side effects. Who knows, what CERN plays and all this, and who knows, it doesn't matter. But if I'm alive back then, who's the security detail chief here? It's Zara, please, no. Please, no. Zara, out. Come on. Climbing on top of the mic, and come on. She gets, whenever I start talking like this. Anyway, sorry. The guy's name is, Blake Witherspoon. Well, wait, I'm a time traveler. John Kennedy's supposed to be here. No, it's Blake Witherspoon, man. What you talk? Get out of here. Who said you could get this close to President Lincoln? Get, they would say to me. So now, but Matt, if it's retrocausal and you could actually time travel, you would go back and it would be John Kennedy. Okay, well then we get into the grandfather paradox and all. Let's just not go too crazy here. I'm saying, a certain part of the truth community might even see how fake this is and that these coincidences are impossible, but they're only going to be able to understand it in a very limited fashion. They're going to say, well, that Matt, all these Kennedy Lincoln synchronicities, the people in control here have been in control for 1,000 years, and that was part of the script. And this, I don't buy it. Yes, there are planned elements. Every day there are planned elements. I mean, Bill Gates comes and talks about the medical and this and that. It's all planned. Of course, he's just a puppet. But I don't know. I don't buy. To me, I'm much more willing to believe that all these coincidences. It's now coming back in retrocausal fashion. Than it was the men in black and the secret societies ran around and made sure all these synchronicities matched up. I mean, think about just if that's all they did, every secret society in the world, that's all they had to do for the last 500 years is making sure these Kennedy Lincoln synchronicities match up. That would be a big task in and of itself, let alone the other 1,000 things that were pulled off. So I've seen too much, guys. And I'm Mandela affected. This isn't a stretch for me. I've seen reality change in front of my eyes for the most part. If you're not Mandela affected, okay. It doesn't mean I'm crazy. You bring other things to the table. I believe Greg, my friend Greg, when he says, Wizard of Oz changed in front of my eyes. Just looked away, looked back, the scene had changed. And reality had reset, and it would never change back again. We've had these experiences. So to me, the William Casey or whatever, the quote, we're not going to rest until everything the American public believes is false. It doesn't mean they're running around swapping pages out in books, and that you can't think of it in terms of the literal as to what's being said, or you can't think of it in terms of your reality bookends, or in pedestrian fashion. That's probably the wrong word to use. But to me, they're going to mess with reality itself, and they're not going to stop until that outer edge of the screen, which is a false reality, has completely infringed or impinged upon everyone's heart center. So the main point is always good news. The main point is, let's just say 70-80% of what I said was complete horse shit. Totally wrong. But there might have a few parts were right. Let's just say I'm pretty wrong about all this. It doesn't matter. Even if I'm right about everything, Matt, if you're right about everything, we're screwed. No, not at all. That's so sinister. It's so dark. Some of the places you're going. The news, in the end of the day, is wonderful, because what we have to do for ourselves, going back to the graphic, heart-centered reality, they can't touch our heart-centered reality unless we ourselves extend the hand. Here's a slimy Voldemort hand coming in from... It's like, look up at your ceiling. If you don't have a high ceiling, one of these McMansion homes that costs $40,000 a month to heat and cool, say there's a hand coming through the ceiling. That's like the outer edge of the screen. It can't touch you. It can't touch you. You got to reach up and shake hands with it. Oh, hi, Hillary. Oh yeah, you got a new ring on it. You got to reach out. If you protect your heart center bubble, I mean, in terms of maybe they come at some point, can bankrupt your business and can mess with how you interact with a screen and make your life miserable. But your soul tokens, your essence of who you are, the no consequences. People think that the higher self would never allow that to be given away. Either way, well, I would say, what are they doing all these tactics for? Now we have this whole magenta thing to look at. Unless we reach out and embrace the magenta, they can't touch us. It's the greatest news of all time. Realizing the magic trick. Seeing, and very soon, we're not just going to analyze the magenta forever and help breathe life into it. We can start, let's just, without any sort of, Matt, we don't have a real good game plan, but we can start with simple affirmations. And, if you go buy a kids a car wash and they chose magenta, car wash, $5 to raise money for the junior high, it's not sinister. It's okay. This color, it's a blending of colors. It exists in our reality. I don't, how they're trying to use it in a malignant or sinister fashion. We're not exactly sure yet. But when it's used centered in a very sick way, like Bono and The Edge in the subway, or what was that band called Blackpink, and you see it and it gets right in your face, and say this, simple affirmations. I don't know what you're trying to do here. This doesn't work on me. This is, I see right through the magic trick. This doesn't affect me in any way. I mean, look, are these the greatest, most genius affirmations of all time? No, they're lame. But this could be 99%. Just seeing it, saying my reality bubble is mine. There's none of your tricks are going to come in. Forget about it. That to me, I don't think in the end of the day there's much more we need to do than that. Thanks for listening.